Australia is considered the world's most China-dependent economy. Geographically positioned for easy trade, Australia has positioned itself well in other means also. Currency swaps with China have been successful and an expansion has been evident. Even when obvious alliances with other Western nations are strong, Australia's economic ties with China have been very beneficial to both sides. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's talk about China today as well as Australia and also Trump. President-elect Donald Trump invited technology leaders to a discussion next week in New York where Silicon Valley will begin building relationships with an incoming administration it initially distrusted and mostly criticized. So obviously they're going to need to do business over these next few years. It is important that they get a strategy to, or at least what Trump is hoping, to pull that offshore money inland. That is the hope, that is the desire, to give them favorable taxation, say bring your money back in and we will take care of you. That's sort of the hope that's going on now, perhaps part of the discussions. And I do believe that the intention here is to create more jobs within the US and give favorable taxation as a result. Let's look at this. You saw it out there, but I found this to be very funny. Senate Republicans are preparing to launch a coordinated and wide-ranging probe into Russia's alleged meddling with the U.S. elections and its potential cyber threats to the military, digging deep into what they view as a corrosive interference in the nation's institutions. So yes, they are going to dig in to exactly what happened. That connects in with this article. The CIA, all right? The CIA has concluded in a secret assessment that Russia intervened in the 2016 elections to help Donald Trump win the presidency rather than just to undermine confidence in the U.S. electoral system, according to the officials' briefs. So it went further than that, just that they wanted some influence. In fact, according to the CIA, they said that he was able to win because of the help of Russia. Now, this initially came to light with two independent teams, let's say, and they said Russia hacked in, Russia had influence. Maybe I could believe that in so-called independent analysis. But when it's the CIA, I immediately need to believe that it's fake. The CIA responsible for coup d'etat all over the world, going back as far as can be seen in the pages of history. The CIA known for its corrupt and criminal activity. The CIA known to spy on its own citizens, to capture its own citizens, and essentially working offshore in its own black budget. So when you tell me that the CIA has concluded in a, of course, secret assessment, I immediately begin to question it. I don't know what happened. I don't know the truth. I don't know any of that. I don't have any details. All I know is that when you have an organization that is consistently lying to people, consistently doing bad things, I'm not going to trust them. That's just the way it is. You should have had somebody else other than the CIA do that. But using the CIA is not going to enlist any confidence in me. All right, let's look at the main article for today. While growth figures stank last quarter, the nation is again being cushioned by its status, this is talking about Australia, of course, as the developed world's most China-dependent economy. Surging coal, this is important, surging coal and iron ore prices have helped ease an erosion of national income down under, and together with a slower slide in mining investment signal better prospects ahead. What I would say about Australia, even more so than Canada, is that it is commodities driven. The economy relies heavily on commodities. It's to some degree real aspect in Canada as well. where as soon as you see commodity prices coming down, you will see the dollars coming down, and you will also see the general economy suffer. Look at the prices of oil, for example, and then you saw what happened with real estate prices in Alberta, other regions as well. You saw that. That was very clear. I covered it here. Australia is even more to that degree, where you see these commodities that when they are suffering, when industrial metals or anything that will be used in industry to build, whenever those items are no longer needed, you see that Australian economy suffering. So it's interesting to be able to, if you're a day trader or even a long-term trader, if you know these things, if you knew these little basic pieces of information, you could then predict the economy, predict Forex, things like this. You don't need to look at it on a daily basis, understand the trend, and you can therefore be able to predict exactly what's going on. All right. Australia can thank its number one trading partner, whose old economy is reviving as fiscal stimulus gets smokestacks billowing again. By the way, I don't agree with what they're saying. I'm just reading this for you. All right. Traditional Chinese industries, seen as proxies for growth, such as electricity and rail cargo, have collectively bounced back to the highest level in 3 years. The big unknown? The durability of a turnaround that ended more than 50% drop in commodity prices between 2011 and 2016. So this is how you get an economy to suffer, is you destroy their biggest exports. If you can do that, you will have them suffer. The currency oftentimes suffers as well. So that would mean something for those looking to invest, as I said earlier, whether you wanted to purchase one side of the trade or you want to short the other. This is a big story for Australia. We've talked about the commodity prices as being a game changer. This here, very clear, and it goes for not just Australia and China, but other countries as well. Look at Canada and the US as an example. Ontario's exports, almost all of Ontario's exports end up going to the US. So they have very close ties. The Mexican president here is talking about the fact that putting the military on the streets is keeping people safe. Think about that for a second here. When you go to a developing nation, you often will see the military on the streets. You will see checkpoints everywhere. And you generally get a sense of unease when you are in the streets. This goes for Mexico. If you've gone to Mexico, you may have seen where you have a lot of police presence and you have the military on the streets. I've seen it with my own eyes, so I'm sure you have as well. What you will notice is that Mexico is not the only country who is like this. There are several where you have, number one, developing nation. You have the erosion or almost non-existence of a middle class. You have tons of corruption at all levels of government, and you generally have a civil unrest scenario that is taking place. When I tell you that this is happening in the developed nations, what are currently developed, it erodes into this scenario. When you give them the power, that is the government forces, the power to rot the economy to its core, I assure you this is what's happening. This is a crystal ball for what will occur. You have a country like Mexico, which certain areas are complete bedlam and other areas are more prosperous. Then you look at an area like Caracas in Venezuela, which has declined into absolute apocalyptic scenarios right now. Massive levels of inflation, huge lineups to get basic things that they need for themselves. You have government interference in absolutely everything. And this is the kind of thing that we will see in the major cities around the world in the developed world. Look at this. Brazil grapples with lynch mob epidemic. Quote, a good criminal is a dead criminal. Guardian analysis reveals 173 people have been killed by mobs this year. Poverty is taking over. It is the new prosperity. You will not find the major cities to be what they were before. Yes, there are people buying homes worth 100 million plus. It happens. I've shown you it here on the channel. But at the same time, you have the erosion of the middle class. The middle class is what generally generates the whole economy. And it's happening in not just one or two. It's not just Caracas. That's obviously the obvious example. But when you have different cities of Brazil like this, you have Mexico, different areas of Mexico like this. It's not just Latin America as well. It's coming home. It's coming to your doorstep. This article right here, I won't get into it, essentially talking about poverty, in particular the poverty on the college campuses. And you have people who literally can't eat without other people's help. That's called poverty. And guess what? This is talking about the U.S. Not poverty in Caracas, Brazil, Mexico, other areas. This is the U.S. This right here is, I found it interesting. Essentially what they're doing is, in Japan, they're tagging people, all right? The adhesive QR coded seals they're putting on their nails for people with Alzheimer's, people with dementia. And essentially what this does is, if they're found somewhere in a random location, they could scan that and they could figure out who they are, where they're from, and everything else. I get it. I understand the need for something like this. What I would say is that this is the kind of thing that has that tiptoe effect. Today it's on people with dementia. Tomorrow it's on children in schools. And soon enough it's on government employees. And then, the police and the fire and the ambulance, hospital workers. Suddenly it's, government workers that work outside or work out of the country, or, it just is that tiptoe effect. And that's really what worries me here. Last but not least, I thought it was interesting. Essentially what they're talking about here is this individual who put up a satanic display got permission and said, look, it's my First Amendment right to be able to put this up here, even if it offends people. And I do agree with the First Amendment. Absolutely, there is no question. The reason I mention this is the satanic display is simply that Satanism is growing. Satanism, with its rituals dating back as far as the eye can see, is more prevalent now today than it was in recent years. It's really coming to the forefront, and one of those obvious examples being Pizzagate. I haven't got into Pizzagate here on the channel. I have done my reading up on it, and I may do a video about it, although I won't get into too many of the details because I probably won't be able to stay coherent during the process while reading that kind of information. But anyway, look forward to that. I'll try and do something about that. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. If you hate my face, give me a thumbs down. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, then I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. It's got charts, it's got diagrams, it has everything you need to understand such a complex subject in a very easy fashion. So go to Amazon, where they have a look inside feature that allows you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.